Of all of the 3D prints I do, perhaps the most visually striking are those completed in vase mode. Today we cover a range of techniques for modeling interesting geometry so you can design your own. This video is part of a series on 3D design for 3D printing using a free Onshape account. If you're just starting out, it's best to follow along from the beginning, so please find the link in the video description. In this video, we're creating geometry that's suitable for vase mode, also known as spiral contour prints. The idea was inspired by a holiday decoration contest currently running on printables.com. This guide will assist you if you want to put an entry into that, as well as teaching you how to create some other cool shapes. Let's start by asking what exactly vase mode is and demonstrate with this simple cylinder. I've sliced this cylinder with no internal infill and no top layers so we can better see what's going on. In the preview, I'm going to turn on seams. This represents where the new layer is stacked on top of the last, because normally 3D prints are just vertically stacked layers. And here is that same print in real life. We can see the nozzle extrudes the perimeter, does a little travel move, lifts up and then extrudes the next perimeter. If we slice the same model in vase mode, we can see that the white dots that represent the new layer are missing apart from at the very bottom. And that's because the perimeters after that point are extruded very differently. We can see the difference by observing the actual print. Our nozzle is moving in one continuous path around the perimeter, never stopping to transition to the next layer. What we're seeing here is one continuous spiral to build the outer perimeter. We can see a more obvious representation of this when we extrude filament into midair. Again, we're forming a cylinder and the perimeter is being built up with a spiral of continuous plastic instead of being stacked in exact layers. Let's examine the two side by side. On the left, we can see our very obvious seam from where the layer changes take place, and on the right, we can see that is completely missing. Vase mode doesn't just work with simple cylinders and boxes. The geometry can be quite complicated, as you're seeing here. Because they're hollow, prints intended for vase mode are often great as storage, and if you turn them upside down, they can make for stunning lampshades. Or, because they typically have such interesting surfaces, they look great just as decorative items. So how do we activate vase mode? In Prusa Slicer and Super Slicer, we come up to Print Settings, Layers and Perimeters, and then tick the box for Spiral Vase. When prompted, click Yes to automatically apply other required changes. In Bamboo Studio and Orca Slicer, we come to the Other section, scroll down, and under Special Modes, find Spiral Vase, which we tick. Again, click Yes to apply other changes automatically. In Cura, it's actually found in Special Modes, but the fastest way to find it is to type Spiral into the filter box. We can then tick the box to turn it on, and although it doesn't tell us, it applies changes like removing infill and top layers automatically. In Simplify 3D, we're going to come to Edit Process Settings, and on the Layer tab, come down to Single Outline Corkscrew Printing Mode and check the box. However, we can see from the preview that top layers are not turned off automatically, so you'll have to come back to the Layer tab and set them to 0 manually. Optional but recommended is finding the part of your slicer that controls the width of the extrusion, and typically it's going to be the outer wall, and making this wall thicker will make the vase a lot stronger. With a 0.4mm nozzle, 0.7 is a pretty good value. That should ensure the prints can handle a bit of flexing without splitting apart. And that should be everything we need to know to start designing and 3D modeling. Before we start, there are some requirements that we need to stick to. Firstly, our model should be solid, not hollowed out. As we saw, the slicer will take a solid model and hollow it out automatically. Our model needs a flat bottom of reasonable size. Vase mode prints don't have a great deal of structure, so it's really important we anchor them to the bed nicely with a big flat base. The top of the model can be flat too, but just remember it's going to end up being open. Your model can only ever have one outline island. Let me show you what I mean. This shape on the left, no matter where we segment it horizontally, only ever has one continuous outline. Therefore, it will be suitable for vase mode. However, this shape on the right, we can see splits into two pillars, and therefore we have two islands at that stage of the print. It's impossible for the nozzle to move in one continuous spiral if the perimeters in this part of the model aren't even touching. Apart from the top and bottom, you can't have any other horizontal surfaces. This shape looks okay because everything is flat apart from the very top and bottom. But in terms of 3D printing, the top and bottom of some of these spheres are practically flat once the model is sliced. So because vase mode only cares about vertical walls, any surfaces that are close to horizontal simply aren't printed, and we're going to have holes all through our model. Thinking in a similar way, our walls should be as close to vertical as possible. The slope on the top of this design is closer to horizontal than it is vertical, and in the G-code preview everything looks fine. But remember, this perimeter is only one extrusion wide, so as soon as the slope gets too much, the new part of the spiral won't line up with the old one, meaning it's trying to print in midair and the print is going to end up looking like this. So the closer to vertical, the better the result will be. We're jumping into Onshape now, and if you want to have a closer look at any of my designs, this tutorial document is linked in the description. It contains the source code for this, as well as all of the other tutorials before it. Our first vase is the simplest to design, but that doesn't mean it lacks visual impact. We're going to model a simple object and then use linear patterns to flesh it out. Here's the final model, but how did we get here? The base sketch simply has a square, and then I've drawn two lines, construction lines that I'll use for the pattern. That square is extruded to make a cube, and then the edges are chamfered to make it more interesting. To make the magic happen, we're going to come up to this button here, which is linear pattern. Our entity to pattern will be our cube. For our direction, we'll click on the box and then on one of our guidelines, and then we need to set the distance so that these two overlap. It doesn't particularly matter what you choose, you're just doing it so you're happy with the appearance. The last parameter is instance count, and again you're doing this by visual appearance. Make sure that you have it on add mode instead of new, because if it's on new, you're going to end up with individual parts. Our simple cube has now turned into a string of cubes. We now do a second pattern and inputting the direction with our second construction line. Here I've simply matched the distance and instances. Once again, making sure I've selected add mode. Finally, we take our new shape and we do a third linear pattern, this time vertically. Once again, I've clicked on add to ensure that everything is a single shape. At this stage, we're almost there, but we can see with the section view that there's holes the whole way throughout, and that's going to violate our rule for only having one island at any point during the print. So I did an extra sketch on top, just a diamond that encompasses all of the holes, and then I extrude that shape through to the bottom, and that fills in all the holes and completes the shape ready for exporting. This shape is very easy to model, and you can make lots of variations just by altering the cube at the source of it all. So how about a variation where we have that same cube, but this time use a circular pattern. This one starts off almost exactly the same way. We have an extruded cube with chamfered edges, but in our original sketch we had a circle that we're going to use as a guide. We're going to come up to where we clicked linear pattern, but then click the drop down arrow and select circular pattern. Our entity to pattern is our cube, the axis of pattern is our guide circle, and we need to increase the instances until they have sufficient overlap. Again, you're doing this visually, and I found 30 was a good value for me. Like before, we want to have it on add mode rather than new. We've got a ring shape, but we need to stack it vertically to make it interesting. We'll come back to the top toolbar and select transform. Click on our object, and we're going to change the mode to translate by XYZ. The first thing we want to do is click copy part, and then we want to lift the model up until it's got a good amount of overlap. Once again, I went for 16 mils because I knew that worked well from the last model. At this stage we have two separate parts, and I want to rotate the top one to make it look more dynamic. So we'll come to transform again, only click the top copy, and change the mode to rotate. The exact angle, once again, you're doing visually, and I found 8 degrees was a nice amount of rotation for me. It's worth inspecting at this stage to make sure there's no hidden horizontal surfaces. Just like the last example, we'll now apply a linear pattern, selecting both of our rings and patterning them up vertically. And to join everything together, we'll come to add and tick merge with all. The outside of this is spot on, but the inside is hollow. So like we did last time, we'll draw a sketch with a single circle and then do an extrusion, joining everything together and making the shape solid. Again, the workflow is actually pretty simple. It's a cube in a circular pattern stacked vertically. This next one uses all the same techniques, but instead of starting with a cube, we start with two helixes. We start with a sketch containing just the circle, and we extrude it up to make the main body of the vase. Then from the top toolbar, we'll come up and click on the helix tool. By default, we can click a cylindrical face and the helix will be drawn around the outside. I set it to 2 revolutions and clockwise. This will add a curve to the surface that we'll use later on. I then come to the helix tool again and do everything exactly the same, apart from changing from clockwise to counterclockwise. This means we have 2 separate helixes going in opposite directions. To turn these from curves into 3D shapes, I do a sketch with a small circle, with its center point coincident with the end of each helix. The next tool we're going to use is called Sweep. The face is the sketch we just drew, and then the sweep path is one of our helixes. And this will take our 2D circle, make it 3D by sweeping it around the helix. We then do a second sweep, except this time selecting the second helix, and we're going to leave it on new so we've got 3 separate objects. And here's where the magic happens. If we come to circular pattern, we can click on each of our 3-dimensional helixes, set the axis of pattern to the top of our cylinder, and like always, experiment with the amount of instances until we get the appearance we're after. For me, 4 was what I liked the look of best. Now the problem here is that we don't have a flat top and we don't have a flat bottom. Fortunately, the fix is super simple. We do a sketch from the side and we position each box so it just touches the top of the flat area, and then we extrude those 2 regions, setting it to remove mode, through all, and symmetric for both directions. And this will trim off the excess from the top and bottom, making it suitable for printing. Once again, the end result looks like it was a lot more complicated to make than it actually was. So what about if you have a letter, number, logo, or symbol that you want to be repeated around your vase? Well, that's what I did with this love heart. This one starts like the others. I have a simple extruded cylinder, and then I've added a helix around the outside. Now we need to sketch the love heart, so to make that easy, we're going to hide our cylinder part, and then draw a sketch at the origin in the center of the cylinder. Positioning it on the front or right plane will achieve this. You can see as I've drawn this love heart, I've made sure the tip of it touches the end of the helix, and this is good practice regardless of the symbol that you're using. Now we want to extrude our shape outwards until it bursts through the surface. But we don't need to guess, we can get this exact. If we change the mode from blind to up to face, and then click on the outside face, this will put it flush, but we can change that by ticking offset distance, altering the direction, and adjusting the distance until it just pokes through. At this stage we're leaving it on new because we want it to be a separate shape. Now you may remember we're trying to avoid any horizontal surfaces, therefore I've added a chamfer the whole way around the love heart. The next tool is related to linear and circular pattern, and it's the curve pattern. Let's demonstrate how it works with something simple. I've got a 3D shape and then a 2D sketch as the guideline. I'm going to select my 3D shape as the entity, and then as the path, I'm going to select all the segments of my guide sketch. Now it looks like nothing's happened until we increase the instances. And now we can see it's going to make copies of that object and spacing them out to follow the path that we've given. So here's the actual pattern. I've selected my love heart as the entity, my helix as the curve, and I've upped the instances to 280 to make sure they're packed in tightly enough to overlap when we zoom in. That gets us pretty close, but obviously we need some tidy up on the top and bottom like we did earlier. So repeating the same method, we're going to draw 2 rectangles and extrude the whole way through to cut off the top and bottom, and that will give us our final printable vase. This example is a love heart, but of course you can apply this technique to any other symbol. This vase uses similar techniques, but there's something different. The outside is tapered instead of being based on a perfectly straight cylinder. And I thought I would need a feature script to allow me to wrap a helix around a shape like this, but user PMD posted a suitable method which I found in the Onshape forums, so full credit to them. For this one we start with a sketch. This inner section we're going to revolve to make the vase body, and then this outer section we're going to revolve to make a plain cylinder. Here's the result of our first revolve, and when we do the second we need to make sure that we're set to new because we don't want the two to merge. We'll then add a helix just like the other times around the outside of the cylinder, and that cylinder has actually served its purpose, so we can now delete it. We're going to use the sweep tool again, but a little bit differently. The first thing we'll do is switch it to surface mode, and then as our edge we're going to select one of the horizontal lines from the initial sketch. Our sweep path will then of course be the helix. The geometry this will create is like an Archimedes screw, except it has 0 thickness. So here's the original part as well as the new surface, and we want to create a new curve everywhere that they intersect. To do this, we're going to come up to Helix, click on the down arrow to access the other tools, and come to Intersection Curve. Now we simply click a surface of the part, and then for group 2, click our other surface. Immediately in purple, we can see we get the right result. So let's switch back to group 1 and input the remaining 2 surfaces before clicking the green tick. Hiding everything else will reveal our new curve. It's a helix that tapers at the top and bottom. We're going to use it for a curve pattern, so first let's draw a simple 2D shape that touches the end of it, revolve that to make it 3-dimensional, and then apply a curve pattern along the whole length of the helix, Once again, changing the instance count until I have sufficient overlap, 400 being good in my case. We're going to click Add to make these join into one continuous piece. And another thing you might like to experiment with is clicking or unclicking Keep Orientation to see the result of each. Just like with some of our other examples, we're now going to take this new part and repeat it in a circular pattern. I changed my instances to 4 to get a good amount of overlap, and I want to join everything including the original solid piece, so I've come to Add and then ticked Merge with All. Once again, we're almost done, minus the top and bottom not quite being flat. We'll use the same technique as always, sketching some simple rectangles above and below, and using them to cut off the top and bottom, giving us a flat surface. Again, the end result looks much more intricate than the simple geometry that drives it. So now that we can have curved outer surfaces, let's try and create a Christmas bauble. The bauble you're about to see only uses things that we've covered already. We start with a 2D sketch that gets revolved to create the main body, and then a second 2D sketch which is revolved to create a plain cylinder. We'll then use that to place a helix on the outside, but instead of having it wrap around multiple times, my target revolutions is 0.1, meaning the helix is very tall and skinny. I'm done with that outer cylinder so I can delete it, and like we did on the last example, we sweep a straight line to create a surface that follows our slight curve. We then do another intersection curve, placing our narrow helix on the surface of our model, and that gives us a target for a 2D sketch on the bottom, which we then sweep up along the surface of the bauble. We now do a circular pattern to copy it around the surface, followed by some fillets to smooth the transitions, and finally I add a separate section to the bottom. This gives us a flat base and an area to attach some sort of hook to. I scaled this one a little bit too small before I printed it, but I hope you agree it's shaped like a Christmas bauble, and that hole on the tip won't be seen because it points downward. To finish this off, we would have a separate gold piece that clamped over the top and provided a hook to go on the Christmas tree. Using these same techniques, I created one more design, perhaps my favourite, so let's quickly look at how it was done. This one started life as a base sketch with a guide circle and then a solid circle that was extruded vertically. I then wrapped a helix around the outside of that cylinder, sketched a hexagon on top with the center point touching the end of the helix, and used the helix to sweep the hexagon around the cylinder. The cylinder was no longer needed, so it was deleted, and then I used a circular pattern to copy our new shape around our original circle in the first sketch. For this last sketch, I was actually only trying to fill in the center, but I accidentally drew it so it protruded past the existing geometry. Therefore, when this sketch was revolved, some sections showed the new geometry, and the parts where it didn't extend so far let the old geometry poke through, giving us the effect we see here. I think I'll call this one the Blade Tornado, or maybe from this angle, the Mouth of Doom. And there we have it, a similar type of workflow, but with variations to be applied to create different shapes. And what I really like about this tutorial compared to all of the others in the series is that you don't have to go in knowing exactly what you want. You can just experiment and see what you end up with. I'll take this opportunity to wish you a safe and restful holiday season. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy 3D printing. G'day, it's Michael again. If you liked the video, then please click like. If you want to see more content like this in future, click subscribe and make sure you click on the bell to receive every notification. If you really want to support the channel and see exclusive content, become a patron. Visit my Patreon page. See you next time.